Okay, we're going to get started and go live right now. All right. So we're on Facebook as well. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to the IGNet Pamela Howard Forum on Crisis Reporting. I'm going to let everyone start to trickle in, but just sending out a couple of quick hellos to everyone as they come in. Hello, DR. Hello, Gulam. Hello, Peter. Who else is coming in today? Victoire, welcome. Nelly, welcome. A really good crew coming in today. We'd love to see that. Um, we have welcome to the forum today. We'll just let a few more people start to come in before we start our introductions. As usual, if you everyone give a quick thumbs up if they can hear me okay. Fantastic. Love to see it. All right. Kata, welcome. And a few more people trickle in. We're still a little early on the conference today. I'll do the normal spiel. If this is your first time, this is welcome to the IGNet Pamela Howard Forum. We are a twice a month forum, a webinar series that is bringing together journalists from around the world to be able to exchange knowledge, to be able to exchange tools and techniques on reporting around things like crisis reporting, elections, natural disasters, environmental reporting, and all of that. But also, like we're doing today, some just really concrete tools and tips for your reporting. So we're excited to do that today. We're going to be talking about something I think a lot of people are interested in, which is how to cover a conference well. Asking, how do we do this? How do we do it in a way that's productive? How do we do this in a way that is beneficial, that we actually get something out of? I'm actually looking forward to this one today too. I've been to conferences where I've gotten a lot out of it. I've been to conferences where I got next to nothing. And so I'm excited to talk to Elna today as we see how we can kind of get a little bit more of the former than the latter. So as we have a couple people in today, I know a couple more people are going to start to trickle in over the first 5 minutes or so. I'm going to start with our introduction. I'm going to introduce our guest, and then we're going to head off from there. So we're going to begin today. So conferences are excellent opportunities for journalists to network and view expert sources and get leads on future stories. But while journalists thrive on the unexpected, they also are likely to get lost if they rely on improvising their experiences without a plan. I've been there. This is especially true for freelance journalists who might not have the support or the direction of like an editorial room. So Elna Schütz is a South African freelance reporter who has explored several countries and topic areas through conferences throughout her career, including most recently the HIV Research for Prevention, or HIV R4P, conference in Lima, Peru. She actually wrote a recent article on IGNet about that conference called Tips for Journalists Covering a Conference, which dives into lessons she's learned from past experiences that are useful for journalists covering their first or fifth or 10th conference. If you actually go on IGNet right now, you'll be able to see that right on our homepage. It's on the article still up on the top. So Elna, I would like to welcome you. And I'm going to let you go take it away from here at the beginning.
Thank you, Devon. I am really excited for this session. It's something that I love doing, covering a conference, but it can also really be a challenge. So I'm looking forward to all your questions to see what you need to know, what you want to talk about today. But I thought we'd start just with a little bit of a photo slideshow from some of the conferences I have been at to give you some pictures of what does it really look like if maybe you've never been to a conference before, and to set the scene a little bit of the kind of conferences I have covered. As Devon said, I am a freelancer. I work primarily in writing and audio across a variety of local South African and international brands, and across a variety of topics. My big love is human rights and health and science, but there's a lot more beyond that. So I've just chosen a few little conferences. One of the first that I went to, and I actually ended up going twice, is called the Heidelberg Laureate Forum. It is in Heidelberg, Germany, and it focuses very strongly on mathematics and computer science. And these are without a doubt, some of the smartest people I have ever met, and the conversations over coffee will go straight over your head. They were talking about quantum mechanics and AI in something like 2014, and I had to quickly Google what that was. So here are some pictures, very importantly, the lineup of everything happening, just because I feel like that little page becomes your best friend during the conference. You're constantly trying to see what was the next thing I signed up for. In the middle there, one of the amazing experts I got to speak to, my second Nobel laureate on my list. And then some beautiful pictures, because this conference in particular had some incredible networking social events, including dinner under a old space shuttle. And as I will show, conferences also are a lot of fun, often as stressful as they can be. So this was a conference that was incredibly niche. So we can speak about that. This second one here, the Arabic on the two cups that I still have many years later, stands for Science and Peace. And this was the World Science Forum at the Red Sea, as you can see on the side there in Jordan. And it was a little bit more about science diplomacy. I got to interview my first robot, who I found a little bit creepy, but it was very fun. And so this conference for me was a little bit more about finding stories on the run, not quite being sure what's going to come of it. I didn't expect such a strong diplomacy, sort of science political angle, and I had to run with that. So that's one thing. A few years ago, I had the wonderful opportunity to go to South Korea. This was for a forestry conference, and I was told about the opportunity probably about 2 weeks beforehand. So this one was really a scramble to find those stories and to understand, again, something very niche I didn't know a lot about. There's a picture down there with the goose of drinks after work with some of the colleagues, because that is a really big part of going to conferences, meeting people from around the world, both journalists and scientists, or whatever kind of researchers you're working with. And then on the bottom there was somebody who won an award for forestry action. And I'm sure we can also talk about the possibility of profiles at conferences. So I'm just giving you little breadcrumbs that you can pick up on if you need ideas for questions. Lots of pictures here from my last conference that I got back from, I think, 1 month ago, in Lima, Peru, and it was HIV themed. It was a HIV conference, which you can see here by the cute condom pillow fluffy that I'm holding. And on the top, my left, it might be your right, speaking at the journalist training, which comes with a lot of these fellowships. Another thing we can talk about is Linda Gale Becker, one of the superstars of South African HIV research. So meeting incredible people there. Conferences as gateways to incredible opportunities. I got to take myself to Machu Picchu on the back of this conference, which might not be what this session is about, but it's a part of it. And then the bottom, that picture is just the realism. A lot of conferencing, a lot of conference work means sitting on the floor, running around, drinking whatever coffee you can grab, doing 5 things at the same time. And that's it. Here are some of my handles. I can tell you again about it maybe at the end.
Perfect. Thank you, Elna. I'm actually going to usually do Q&As at the end, but I just want to answer this one quickly from Sahana, because I think this is a good lead into what we're about to do today. She goes, I'm Sahana Menon. I'm here at COP29 for my first conference alone. As a freelance journalist covering Indigenous communities and environmental issues, I feel a bit overwhelmed about how to navigate everything here. So we're going to help. This is what we're here for. So let's actually, Elna, I'm going to dive into some of my questions. Everyone at the end of this session, we are going to have time for Q&As, so don't worry about that. Um, but I want to start with why are conferences useful for journalists? In your article, you mentioned that some journalists decide not to go to conferences. They don't feel like it's worth their time. So what's your response to that?
Yes, it's different to staking out a police incident or running around a protest, etc. But it is really interesting in this bigger scheme of things because it is such an in-person concentrated group of experts. So you have the possibility to have somebody right there that would often be many, many um, interviews, interview scheduling, sort of conversations before you get anywhere close to talking to them. And the same goes for the content. There's no way better to learn about something or to learn even more about something than be at the center of it, where people who know everything about it are talking about it. So it's a really concentrated space to pick up a lot and to pick up the newest and most interesting thing. You're not Googling HIV trends. That's a weird way of saying it, but you're not just trying to blindly find out what's interesting. You're sitting next to the top researcher in a specific thing and asking them, so what do you find interesting? What do you think I should write about? What's really keeping you up at night? So it is a lot of pressure. And your first one being cop, that's a big one. Congratulations and good luck. You'll be okay. But that would be my main answer. Just the opportunity to focus in for 1 week or a few days on this really big cosmos of expertise.
Ellen, let's unshare our screen right now so we can just have just you and me side by side. People can look at us. Perfect. Well, let's go into some of those tips. So, you're at COP29. This is your first conference. You're feeling overwhelmed. What are your top tips for how to structure and get control over what you're doing at the conference and make sure that you get good stories out of it? And I'll just leave it to you from there.
Yeah. So first of all, I catch myself even after many conferences getting this idea in my head that there is a correct amount and type of stories or sort of end game here, and that if I don't do that, then I must have failed. And if I don't attend all 7 sessions at the same time as one human, then I'm surely going to miss something crucial. Let it go. Let it go. Even if you're 7 conferences in, it doesn't exist. What does exist is a good match between what is available and feasible and what you can actually get out there. So that's obviously different for a journalist who's only with one particular publication. You'll have a much clearer idea of what kind of things that publication might be interested in or publications. If you're going there for a specific reason, then make that your priority, obviously. But on the other hand, if you're a freelance journalist, you have to do the same thing, but with a lot more internal control, in the sense that you kind of just have to pick certain things that you're pitching. So the main thing is pick something and make a plan. That plan will change constantly because things will pop up that you didn't expect. But really choose a target that you are likely to hit. And I'm not saying dumb it down. I'm not saying don't run around like a wonderful, crazy person. I'm saying don't unnecessarily overwhelm yourself. If you are there for a specific focus on Indigenous things, make that your specific focus. Find out what the 4 main things are. and be okay with hierarchies. So you might go and find that certain topics are what your editor likes or what you're able to sell, and other things are interesting to you personally, but you just can't go to the session because you're in a different one. Or as a freelancer, for instance, at HIV R4P, there was a topic around pregnant women with HIV that I was really interested in, but for various reasons, my editors weren't into it. And I ended up not going to that session, even though I was really interested in it, just because it wasn't in line with the main reporting plan. So I think that's really what you want to hold on to and chase those 1, 2, 3, or 4 stories, and have a variety of the kind of things you're looking for. I can speak more to it, but that's the main one.
I think it would be helpful also. So you just came back from the conference in Peru on HIV. How did you yourself form a plan specifically for that conference? Maybe that could help people understand how they form their own plans.
Absolutely. So I knew several months in advance that I was going to this conference, and I sort of set it as my own personal challenge to not feel as overwhelmed as I have previously, specifically as a freelancer, because you don't want to sit on day 3 of 4 and still not really know whether anybody's going to buy anything. And let me just put the disclaimer, I'm talking about a situation where there is an expectation from wherever that you are producing during the conference. Sometimes that's not the expectation, and then you can just chill and soak things up. But very often, specifically if you're there on a fellowship of some kind, a scholarship of some kind, there is some level of expectation that by the end you're actually going to deliver something. So just that disclaimer. And so quite early on, I made a list, a matchmaking list of sorts. And the one side was publications that I had relationships with or didn't have relationships with, but would like relationships with, who I could imagine taking HIV type content. And there was a wild mix of what that might be. And then on the other side, I went through the program once it came out, and I looked at the sessions not as sessions, but as starting points for stories. Because just because something is a great conference session doesn't actually mean it'll be a story. Often stories are what you see between the lines. They're, oh, I'm seeing most of the researchers are under 30. Oh, is this industry becoming very junior? Or, oh, there are many sessions on vaccinations, but none on the cure. Is that a question? Or as I mentioned, oh, there's a lot of focus on pregnant women. Let me go research that. So I would warn you to see yourself very much as a floating journalist. You are not a conference participant in the sense of having to stick to a whole session. You can sneak out the back. You can only come for one person. You can run between sessions. Obviously don't be rude, but your loyalty isn't the same as it might be if you're just attending the conference for the information. So your plan will, I think, mostly be focused on the kind of stories, which might be a profile, it might be a trend, it might be new results, etc. And then because I had the time, I was able to start matching those together. In my case, even though I started very early, it didn't work. And a few weeks beforehand, I still didn't have a single story, and I was panicking. And as is often the case with journalists, you panic and you stop panicking, and then you just keep working on it until it works. So eventually I had those breakthroughs, and I had several editors say yes to me. But one editor, I think, only said yes when I was already there. It's a constantly moving situation, but having some kind of plan and trying to match those together is the main way I made a plan. And then as I was there, I was keeping my eye on those main stories and really making sure I get what I need for those main stories. and yet also being open to networking, to other ideas that might become something, etc.
I think so personally, I found that also conferences for me have been, I come from a different perspective. I come from a newsroom. I know I'm not sitting there as a freelancer, so this is something to keep in mind. But I found them amazing networking opportunities to be able to meet people who you can work on future projects with, or to be able to call in for a forum session or something like that. And my question for you is, I've always found whether it was the International Journalism Festival in Perugia, recently this year, I went to the Society of Environmental Journalists in Philadelphia. I can find that it can be hard to find out how to network in between running between sessions. So, what advice would you have for people to want to do that networking, want to be able to grab someone and be like, here's my business card, here's how we can work together, but also find that everyone's running around all the time at these conferences?
Yes. So just to clarify, I think I have a slightly different, and I think we all do a slightly different approach to networking with other journalists as
Mhm.
opposed to sources or potential sources. So with potential sources, it's really a hierarchy between the ones I really need and the ones that are nice to have that I'll, keep in the back pocket for future story. Um, Whereas journalists, which I think is what you were mostly speaking about, and I haven't mentioned here conferences that are journalism conferences because obviously you're not there to cover it. You're just there as a participant. So that's a little bit different. But I would say um, it's a mix between honoring your own energy as a human and what you need, like sleep and food and
Coffee.
going coffee and going to see um, something local if you really have always wanted to go to Italy or wherever it was, um, and pushing yourself a little bit, and I say this as an introvert, to take part in those social opportunities and then really to use them to not be on your phone or whatever. So I think it's a lot of just being open to the other journalists, asking questions, keeping them in mind, and seeing the little opportunities. So, for instance, I am not a great person to speak to at the hotel breakfast. I am tired. I haven't had my tea yet, still waking up. That is a time that I keep for myself. I use it to read the news, etc. However, at this conference, for instance, we didn't have a conference bus. We were given some money to organize our own conference transport. So that opened up an opportunity for us journalists to Uber together quite frequently. And those conversations in the Uber to the conference center became really great.
Hmm.
Most conferences have a social program. It depends, but most of them have social programs, whether that's, a quick cheese and wine afterwards, whether that's people organizing themselves and saying, we're in Korea, let's go have Korean barbecue, or whether it's a full on in a castle, dinner. Um, Live a little, use those, chat to people about themselves, about their work. I think that's the important part. And then also bring some direction to it. I have many conference friends who I just had wonderful times with. Um, but also there's comes a moment where you think, oh, is there a way for us to work together? Is there, what do I want out of this? Is there something that we should make sure by the end we do sort of touch base on?
We already have a lot of questions coming in, and I want to be able to honor the questions coming in because this is our audience's space to be able to ask these. One of them is a question I was going to ask anyways, so that's perfect. So I'm going to say this is from, I apologize for all pronunciations of names, but this is from, oh, where is it? Oh, this is from Kata Karath. Very simple one. But how do you get funding to attend so many conferences around the world, especially as a freelancer? This is a big question, and so I'm going to throw it to you.
Absolutely. I should have put the dates on those conferences because I think my first Heidelberg Jordan, and something else I think that I'm forgetting were during my last full-time job. And then some were freelance while I was freelance. Um, and for me, I've not paid for a single of these conferences. They have all been on travel scholarships or fellowships. Um, Apart from conferences in my own city or in the next door city. But most of them, you're either going on a job or it's a fellowship. You can find those. And I would say this even if this wasn't an IJNet event, you can find those on IJNet. You on the opportunities page. That's probably where I found a lot of these. You can find them on other journalism forums and also go look for opportunity forums that are specific to your grouping. So I am, for instance, on an African Opportunities Forum. Maybe there are specifically forums for young professionals or women or whatever it might be. So also, look if there's a specific sort of demographic that might have opportunities. So scholarships are great, some better than others. But also you can either constantly look for them or you can, as I did when I went freelance, spend an afternoon and just make a giant spreadsheet of roughly, this yearly conference roughly comes out at this time. And you can be put on lots of newsletters. So for instance, I'm far more likely to go to another International AIDS Society conference now because I'm in their network already. So scholarships is great. I can speak a little bit more about what they pay, what they don't pay, how that works. But just for time's sake, let me put that aside. That's how I do it. There is a significant application process, and you have to keep things in mind as a freelancer that, for instance, you will lose time traveling, you will have some stress, you will at midnight, for instance, I do a radio update in New Zealand every morning, once a week, or on a morning once a week. In Peru, that was at midnight. So I was staying up for midnight to do my normal work. You have to keep all of that in mind. But most of the time it's quite feasible to do these kinds of things. You just apply. Do keep in mind whether they accept freelancers. Keep in mind what they pay for. Most of the time, when I started going to conferences, they would sometimes ask you to pay and then they'd give it back to you. That's not really on anymore because we can't really expect people to be paying really, like a lot of money for flights and then wait to get that back. So now most of the time, my big expenses have been paid for directly by them and I never see that. And then the other really big thing that I would say, and you might not know until quite close to the time, but conferences are very different, or conference fellowships, scholarships are very different in terms of what they expect from you. I've been to some that have been incredibly welcoming and sort of said, oh, you're covering this for whoever. That's lovely, send us the link. And others where every day I've been asked 3 times, so are you doing 10 stories? We expect this, otherwise you're not giving us our money's worth. So as a freelancer, that partly is where the stress comes from when you are not able to meet those, or you're scared you might not meet those expectations. So be very aware of that and be aware of there's just sort of extra effort it can take to sell a particular conference story when you don't know what's going to happen. So for instance, I knew they were going to be lenacapavir. You might know the name of that drug, lenacapavir results, but obviously I didn't know what they were going to be. So I was trying to sell something that didn't exist yet. And Oh, there's something else I wanted to say. So you can't say I have to do that, but you also have to really see when do clients get back to you. And I will just say one thing. Not all clients are okay with taking content that was paid for in any way. So, for instance, a big client that I work with frequently, who I have a great relationship with, their whole the whole organization, somebody can't pay for you to fly to that conference. So I made the mistake earlier on trying to pitch things, and and that didn't go very well.
So speaking about pitching, once again, always everyone apologies for pronunciation. This is from She and Kim. Says, "Hello, hi Elna, thank you so much for this. How do you work with editors when it comes to pitching your ideas? Do you go to the conference first and then pitch later, or pitch on the fly while at the conference? How does that work?"
Hmm. Um, Again, if you're in a newsroom, you can probably do a mixture of that. You'll probably say to your editor beforehand, I'm looking out for ABC. And then while you're there, you'll refine those ideas. And I know of people who were with me, for instance, at this conference, who basically got everything they needed and only then pitched it to the editor because they felt so confident about what the editor would want. Freelancer, that's tough. I personally am dedicating this conference time, so I want to make sure the 10 minutes I get with this international CEO are really well used later. And also, I have a deep fear of an editor asking me, specifically in radio, do you have sounds of the fountain? And then I have to say, no, I don't have sounds of the fountain, and I'm never going back to Peru, and I cannot get sounds of the fountain. So I feel very strongly that I would love to arrive with at least one or two yeses so that I know where I'm going. But I think we should clarify that a lot of these scholarships come with a journalism training.
Mhm.
So I arrived 2 or 3 days earlier in Lima with all the other journalists. We were about 20. Same thing in Korea. We had about 2 full days of how to cover this topic. And in Lima, for instance, they did this amazing thing where they held several sessions where some experts came in and actually went through the conference schedule with us and said, like, ooh, I know this is small. I'm really excited for reasons. And we got to meet some of the big speakers like Linda Gale Becker, etc. So I'm saying that because you are going to learn on the fly. So try to pitch beforehand. Be aware that it's going to change while you're there. You can pitch afterwards. However, you want to make sure it's something that you either 100% already have everything in the bag or you can do afterwards. Typical example is I wanted a profile of the new president of the International AIDS Society. Of course, I was naive or overly optimistic in thinking that the most important person at this conference would have time for me. So even though I tried, I didn't get an interview with her. I will be doing it online in the next few weeks. But that's something that I know I can get.
I think this also leads to another question someone has. This is from Edith. Hi, Elna, Edith here. Do you have any tips for following up with speakers at conferences for clarifications when they're difficult to reach after their presentations, such as long queues waiting for speakers to speak with them, and may not respond to emails during the event?
Cool. I believe this is the Edith that was with me at HIV R4P. If yes, hello Edith. If not, if it's a different Edith, I'm so sorry. Yes, that is an issue. It is going to happen. People are very busy and they might not answer emails. And even if there's a very specific, sometimes there's a conference app where you can sort of message people within the conference. That can help, but it can also mean people ignore that conference app. So my main tips are obviously keep trying in every way you can. Um, and become a bit stalkery if you have to. So I have absolutely gone into the IAS president. I started going into sessions quietly and just seeing if she was there, and then walking to the next section, just seeing if I could see her PA, just so that I could pull him aside, or going to the cocktail event or whatever, with the purpose of finding Elna and saying to her, hey, been trying to get you, what, can we make a plan? And just because you've been there personally. So do what you can in person, and otherwise you have to wait till afterwards. Yes, for long queues, but I find the best thing is even if I have to follow them halfway to the bathroom saying, hi, Devin, I know you're really busy. I do want to connect with you on a media question, and it is a bit time sensitive. What is the best way for me to do that now? And almost always they will give you, because that's so direct, they'll give you a concrete answer. Like, I'm really overwhelmed. I do answer WhatsApps, or would you mind doing this during my smoke break,
Yeah.
or whatever.
I love that. I'm going to keep that one in mind myself, because that is something that I personally have struggled with a lot, because it's a lot of times people are coming right out of the conference, everyone's swarming them, you can't get a word in, and being able to find that time to say, hey, I know that this might not be the best time, but when can we talk? I feel like it's very useful.
Also, I make this mistake too often, but every conference has a media team, and most of the ones that I've worked with, whether they are the conference organizer media team or specific one for the conference, most of them are fantastic and really want to help you.
Yeah.
So if you're struggling, go to the journalism media room. Ask some of the others, like, hey, I've been really struggling with Elna. Like, have you seen them? Do you have a WhatsApp number, etc.?
Mhm. This is the last question we're going to ask, because we're coming up with time. Everyone, I'm sorry if I didn't get to all of your questions, but I hope we were able to answer a lot of them just talking here. This one's from a student, and I think this is an interesting place to land on. It's a longer question, so I'm going to kind of just paraphrase it. I'm currently a graduating student of BA journalism here in the Philippines. One of my passions is to join and attend conferences, seminars, trainings, and workshops. My question is, how do I make my presence and attendance, I'm going to guess as a student, more productive as I attend conferences? How do I make it relevant and not just for an experience? So what advice would you have for students maybe who are attending conferences right now?
Mm.
Or very early career journalists, perhaps, who are having the opportunity to go as part of a university or as part of an early career program, but might not have the connections and name yet to be able to say, hi, I'm Elna, here are my 20 different clips, that kind of stuff.
Yes. Well, that's a question quite close to my heart, because I heard about um, the job offering, what do you call it, the job listing for my first ever job, which I ended up getting, because I was so desperate that I sent a conference organizer an email and said, could I attend your conference, please? I don't have any money. I'll work for you. And one of the people at that conference ended up saying to me, oh, do you know that they're hiring? And that's how I got my first job. And I've worked with a lot of students and student newsrooms. So be aware that a lot of conferences that have links to universities have student newsrooms. I've run those. That's really great, because then you actually get to do something about the conference as a student. So look out for those. And then I think networking is a really big one, and your networking is going to be a little bit different as a student. So one of my favorite questions of all time is, if you were me, where would you look for ... Not, do you know of any people hiring, but if you were looking for an entry-level job, where would you look?
Mhm.
An experienced journalist is going to tell you things you had no idea about that secret Facebook group that's only for whatever. So really picking people's brains without being annoying, um, and um, and being respectful that people aren't at conferences to give you a job or to read your manuscript or whatever it is, but they are open to a connection and talking about it. If you want something more from them, keep that for afterwards. I was that very embarrassing student who ran after people hoping they'll give me something. Doesn't work. They're just there to network with people. So a lot of the time say, wow, it sounds like there might be an opportunity here. Could I email you about that? And we could see whether I can intern for you. Keep that for afterwards.
I'll just put out right there. I was remembering at a conference, I had a journalism student come up to me and just said, "Hey, I saw that you were with the International Center for Journalists. I'm a journalism student. Can I one interview you?" And I was like, "Totally." And then the second one was, "And how do I do more stuff like this?" And being able, I think journalists especially see younger journalists and they go, "Oh, I would love to give you advice because we want to see more young people in the field." So don't be afraid to ask that. Is my advice too. Um, Elna, I think there's so many more questions, but we're unfortunately at time. Thank you so much for joining us today. I think everyone got a lot out of this. I did. Is there anything to end on before we close?
Sure. So, if I may, I'm just going to remind you that I am extremely much like Devon. I have a fairly specific name, so I'm very easy to find online. Elna Schütz, journalist, will find you everything you would need to know to follow me on socials, even my email. But please don't spam me. And of course, we are all journalists here. So if you need someone, if your editor needs someone, do a girl a favor, keep me in mind. And yes, hopefully, and if there are any questions that are super, super important, you can send them to me. I'll see if I have some time to answer. But this was really fun. And be open to conferences. You really will never know what happens. I will maybe end on this. Devon, in the article, I mentioned that I met someone at, I believe it was my first ever conference, so probably 2016 or so, the one in Heidelberg. And last year, 2023, I saw him again for probably the fifth time. And he said to me, I can't believe I didn't call you last week. I had the perfect job for you. Where have you been? And I now work for them every month
I
for
love
that
that.
editor. So you never know what's going to happen.
Perfect. We're going to end on that. Elna, thank you so much. Everyone, thank you for joining. And we're going to close the session here. So thank you.
Thank you all. Have a good
Bye.
day.